Before I continue with the homily, I'd like to begin by reading a letter that comes from our newly installed bishop, Most Reverend R. Daniel Kanda. Dear Father Castillo, that's me. As you know, at the time of your appointment as administrator, Bishop Sigel, as the youngest administrator, was not permitted to assign pastors. So it is now my pleasure to appoint you as pastor of St. Teresa Parish of Kankakee, effective immediately. I'm so happy that finally, because for a while I was like, I can't call myself pastor yet. And some of my friends were like, yeah, but whatever, you are. But rules, details, but I was not comfortable until I actually got the idea. So I usually sign myself a priest of St. Teresa, but I've been saying pastor now, pastor. Besides, I actually prefer the pastor title than the parish administrator, because I'm not much of the boss. I don't boss people around. So I'm more pastor. So I'm happy that now I can actually get the title officially from the bishop. He said your term of office will be for 6 years. So there you are. You endure me for 6 years. The duties of a pastor are outlined blah 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 and can blah. I am grateful for your ministry and look forward to working with you in the service of God and His people. It is a tremendous responsibility that you are accepting. Yeah, exactly. And I assure you of my prayers that you will remain strong in doing the Lord's work. So, I'm happy about that. By the way, if you ever catch me using this gadget at Mass, I am not texting. Okay? Not texting. I have all my purse, my breviary stuff, my Mass parts are all here in the thing. So I am, just make sure that you know that I am using it for the glory of God. Okay, so there you go. Okay, now our readings for this Sunday. I love our readings. Particularly, I mean, look at the first reading, which our brother Paul here read so eloquently. The first reading from the prophet Isaiah says, all you who are thirsty, come to the water. You who have no money, come, receive grain and eat. Come without paying and without cost. Drink wine and milk. Yeah, if you don't like wine, which I don't know if a lot of people don't like wine, but anyway, you can go for the milk. But then you can drink a lot of wine. Why spend your money for what is not bread? Your wages for what fails to satisfy. Come to me heedfully. And here's the part I like. Listen, that you may have life. That is so beautiful. You can just read that every day. You'll be alright. And this is an amazing reading. But you see, if you look at all the readings this Sunday, we realize that this particular reading from the prophet Isaiah is so obviously connected to the gospel, where we find Jesus at the end of ministering to the poor, the sick, and all those people who were like flocking toward Him. Then we hear it gets late, and then the people get hungry, and of course, you can send them away. So what does He do? 5 loaves and 2 fish is able to feed 5,000 men, not counting the women and the children. And I presume there were more women and children. So this is an amazing story and an amazing message for all of us, especially because, my dear friends, let's face it, we all like food. We all like food. You know, in the Philippines, ask my mom. She's videotaping right now because I wanted her to get this particular Mass. So, think about it. In the Philippines, where I come from, if you invite people to please come to our Mass this Sunday or a prayer service or whatnot, you'll probably get half a church, whatever, maybe 1/4 to 1/2. But if you tell them, come to Mass with some fellowship and great food, lots of food, the entire village shows up. It is a reality. We all like to eat together around food, partying together. So I look at this Sunday as like a party with the family of God and the Lord. So this is a great thing. I mean, that's the reason why I think Jesus has used food as a tool for ministry. He invited people. I mean, come to think of it, when he called the apostles, he went, okay, from now on, you will not just be fishing fish. You will be fishing men. And so, I'm sure there is a part of it that translated, will be with other people. And it's still kind of the mentality of gathering together and celebrating and eating together still is there. And from that moment, when he calls them forth to ministry, until the time that they're called together to the upper room to eat together, the Last Supper, that is a very special time. The Lord calls them forth and offers His very body and blood as food and drink for them. And in between, you have all these stories about how He gathers them together around the table. He calls the guy on top of the sycamore tree and says, hey man, come down here, I'm going to your house, and then He feeds him. So food is central to the way Jesus has operated in His own ministry, and for obvious reasons. We are all called to gather and eat and celebrate this table. That is the intention of the Lord, that we gather around the table. That's why even after the Lord has already left and ascended into heaven, left that way, we hear the apostles continuing that particular tradition that the Lord started. They still gathered together and broke bread, as the Acts of the Apostles would tell us. So, breaking bread and gathering together at the table is something that is basic expectation for all of us Christians. Now, here's the one thing that kind of catches me, because now I remember some of my friends, my very own friends, sometimes telling me, Sonny, I don't really need to go to Mass. Because, I mean, I pray. I pray in my own room. I pray in my own place, in our house. I don't have to go to church. God knows my heart. Have you heard those before? Yeah, you hear that, right? That's some kind of a mentality. Oh, yeah, I do good work. I'm a good Christian. Why do I need to go to church? I do good to others. I don't harm anybody. I love God. Why do I need to go to church? And I think the answer is really written underneath in the scriptures, because God desires and intends in Jesus that we gather together around the table. That is the purpose of Jesus. Because if not, why did He even come down to be one of us in the flesh? That God could have just said from up in heaven, maybe created some kind of a God-like figure up in the clouds and said, you're all right now, you can come up to heaven now. You could have just said that. Right? But no, what did He do? God sends His Son, and God comes in the flesh so that He can be physically with us. So that we can understand the meaning of communion. And that is why, my dear friends, I think of all these readings, we go back to the second reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Friends, what will separate us from the love of Christ? Will anguish, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or the sword? No, he says, no. We conquer overwhelmingly because of the God who loves us. And there is no angels, or principalities, or present things, or future things, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature could separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. That is the scripture. And that is, I think, the crux of the readings this weekend. The reason why we're called to gather in the feast to eat, and the reason why the Lord gathers the multitude and feeds them together is because we need to get that. We need to be in communion with one another. Now, to make this a little bit more concrete, let me tell you that one of the things that is happening to me here at St. Teresa's now, as I am in my 1.5 months of being your pastor, is I'm getting to know more people, not only in the face, but also in the name. And every Sunday I get to know more, I play more name games, and hopefully, if I still don't call you by name, just keep telling me what your name is. Like the guy this morning, Africano, now I get him. Africano, I know now. And so, when you're not here, like on a Sunday, when I don't see some of the faces they already are familiar with, I start to ask questions. Where might they be? I start to wondering. I miss them. I start to have this feeling of, I miss them. I wonder where they are. You know, because they're not physically present. And I think that's part of what happens when you are with family, is that you start to miss the people who are not there. And it's good when we gather together in the flesh and gather together as one family, because I think that reestablishes our relationship with one another. And so that is my own experience as a pastor now. As you're a pastor now, it's like, I wonder. And so, and people tell me, oh, maybe they went out of town, or maybe somebody's sick, or maybe they went on a camp or something, I don't know. But that happened a couple times already. Like, sometimes I look at people like, oh, they're not here this week. The Manigos, there was one weekend with Stefan and Lars went on the camp in Boy Scout. I actually missed them not being at church. Of course, Wendy was here this Sunday, but the guys went away. I actually missed them when they're not here. So that is family. That is what we are. We're a community of people, and we gather together like that, and literally gather together. Let me give you another example. I have a pain in my heart this past other week. On July 23rd, one of my good friends in the Philippines got married. Okay. And this friend of mine is actually very close to me. He was my former student at the university, at Ateneo de Manila University, Jesuit University in Manila. And after he graduated, he and I became really, really good friends, and we kept in communication for 12 years now. We've been communicating beyond the school. And he was hoping that I would do the wedding. Okay? And I also know his wife very well. And unfortunately, there are certain things now that don't necessarily work. If I only had a teleporter and I'd press it, I'd be there in the Philippines, and I could have done it. But the reality is no. And then he told me, don't worry, Sonny, I know you are there with us in spirit. And if you can make it, you will be there. And I said, okay, that's fine. Thank you. I like the idea. I'll be there in spirit. And that's good. But then I started to look at the pictures and started to see the footage that they were gathered all together in table, and they're like dancing, partying like that, and I wasn't there. And then I started to tell myself, well, this idea of being there in spirit is kind of bogus. Because the truth of the matter is, I wanted to be there physically. I wanted to be there with them, partying, being there, celebrating with them. Right, Chad, do that again. I think that's the idea. We are meant to gather together. Then I start to think about the idea like, oh, I'll be there with you in your mind, in the spirit, in the, fine, but that's not enough, You miss someone when the person is not there. You know it in your heart. Yeah. Well, my dear friends, I think it is a reality. It is a reality out there that when we gather together, the celebration is so much better and redefined and reaffirmed when you are physically present. Maybe third image, it's probably going to resound with some of you even more. Let's say you have a brother, or maybe even a son, or a sister, whatever you want. And you know that this sister or this son loves you. But that son went away, and now it's been more than 10 years. This son or brother has never showed up in any of the events. No Christmas cards, no phone calls, but even no visits at all. No nothing. And you know in your head that this brother loves you or this child loves you, but until this child or this brother becomes physically present, you know that something is absent there. You know that something is missing. So the idea, my dear friends, is how do you make it in your head all the time that this person really is part of your family, part of your life, when you don't hear from this person, don't see this person at all? So the point, my dear friends, is that as we gather together in the table of the Lord, the intention of the Lord, of God, is for us to really be present with one another in the most concrete of ways. And it is when we do that we reaffirm again the communion of the saints, the communion of the family of God. For after all, my dear friends, we have heard it over and over again. The family that stays together, prays together, and eats together, stays together. That is the intention of Jesus, the intention of God for us. Till next time.